I am about to reveal 12 financial principles that will completely rewire how your brain processes every single money decision you will ever make. But I have to give you a fair warning. Some of these insights are going to make you feel a little uncomfortable. They are going to expose the lies you've been telling yourself about wealth for years, and they are going to challenge the very foundation of your financial identity. My name is Nick, and I've spent countless hours dissecting the hidden psychology behind why smart people make terrible money choices, why broke people stay broke even when they get massive windfalls, and why the wealthiest individuals on the planet often look nothing like what you'd expect. If you've ever felt like you're working harder than ever, but your bank account isn't reflecting that effort, or if you've wondered why financial success feels like chasing a moving target that's always just out of reach, then you need to pay very close attention. We are about to decode the mental operating system that controls every dollar you'll ever earn, save, or lose. Here's what most financial advice gets completely wrong. It assumes you're a robot. It assumes you make purely logical decisions based on spreadsheets, calculators, and interest rate charts. But humans don't work that way. We make financial choices based on emotions, past experiences, and psychological patterns that were programmed into us long before we ever saw our first paycheck.
Today, we're going to expose those patterns and give you the tools to work with your psychology instead of against it. Let's start with a revelation that might sting a little. Lesson number 1. Nobody is actually crazy when it comes to money. I know what you're thinking. What about the person who bought a meme stock at the absolute peak? What about your uncle who keeps buying lottery tickets every Friday? What about the neighbor who panic sold their entire portfolio during the last market crash? They seem pretty irrational, right? Here's the thing. Your financial worldview is shaped by maybe 0.00001% of what's actually happening in the global economy. But that tiny, microscopic slice of reality forms about 80% of how you think money works. If you grew up during a massive recession, you might hoard cash like a survivalist. If you came of age during a tech boom, you might chase growth stocks with reckless abandon. If your parents fought about money every night, you either become obsessed with financial security or you completely avoid dealing with finances altogether because the topic itself feels like a trauma. The person who seems to be making crazy decisions isn't actually crazy. They are responding logically to their own personal experience of how money works. When you understand this, the game changes. You stop judging other people's financial choices and you start examining your own psychological programming.
You have to ask yourself, what experiences shaped how I think about risk? What stories did my family tell me about rich people? Those narratives are running your financial life, whether you realize it or not. This brings us to a concept that most people find terrifying. Lesson number 2. Enough is the most dangerous number in finance. Here is a question that will keep you up at night. When you have enough to live comfortably, why do you keep pushing for more? I'm not talking about basic needs or a roof over your head. I'm talking about the relentless, soul-crushing drive to upgrade everything the moment you've crossed the threshold of genuine comfort. The problem with not defining what enough looks like is that you will eventually risk everything you have to get more of what you don't even need. Think about it. How many people do you know who have risked their reputation, their relationships, or their peace of mind to accumulate wealth beyond what they could ever reasonably spend? This is the hedonic treadmill in action. That promotion you're chasing will feel normal within 6 months. The bigger house will eventually just become your house. The luxury car will become your daily commute. But here is what's truly insidious about not having an enough threshold. You will keep moving the goalposts. First, it's 6 figures, then it's 200,000, then it's $1 million.
The target keeps shifting because you never stop to define what enough actually looks like for you. Meanwhile, you're sacrificing the present moment for a future satisfaction that neuroscience tells us will never actually arrive. The wealthiest people I know aren't the ones making the most money. They're the ones who figured out their enough number and then focused on protecting what they had instead of risking it all for a vanity metric. Now let's talk about the math that feels like magic. Lesson number 3. Compounding doesn't require brilliance, it requires time. We live in a culture that worships the genius move. We love the story of the brilliant insight, the perfect timing, the 1 in a million trade. But real wealth building is actually the opposite of that. Warren Buffett started investing when he was 10 years old, not because he was a child prodigy, but because he had access to information early and he started putting money away consistently. The math of compounding is ruthless in its simplicity. Small amounts invested consistently over long periods will always, and I mean always, beat large amounts invested sporadically over short periods. This is why the person making $40,000 a year who saves 15% consistently will often end up wealthier than the high-flying lawyer making $200,000 who saves irregularly. Our brains hate this reality because it's boring. We want the shortcut. We want the secret strategy.
Meanwhile, the real wealth builders are doing the most mundane thing imaginable, putting money into boring investments, month after month, for decades. This leads us to lesson number 4. Plan for your plans to fail. As the saying goes, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Your financial plan is going to get punched in the face repeatedly. The question isn't whether bad things will happen. The question is whether you'll be financially prepared when they do. Emergency funds aren't sexy. They don't generate high returns. They just sit there in a boring savings account, earning almost nothing. But that boring pile of cash is exactly what keeps you from having to sell your investments at the absolute worst possible time. Survival matters more than maximization. Lesson number 5. True financial genius looks incredibly boring. It's simply doing the average thing, while everyone around you is losing their minds. When markets are crashing and people are panic selling, the genius is the one who does nothing. It requires you to act against every survival instinct your brain has. Your brain wants you to run when the tribe runs. Fighting those impulses consistently over decades is what separates the wealthy from everyone else. Finally, for this part, lesson number 6. The ultimate form of wealth isn't money. It's freedom. Freedom to wake up when you want. Freedom to say no to projects that drain your soul.
Most people optimize for income when they should be optimizing for autonomy. They take the higher-paying job with the 2-hour commute, but doing something you love on a schedule you hate can make you despise what you once enjoyed. Having a low cost of living gives you the power to make choices based on what you want rather than what you need to afford the... We've covered the foundation, but now we need to talk about the part that actually hurts. Lesson number 7. Nobody cares about your stuff as much as you think they do. This is a bitter pill to swallow. When you see someone driving a $100,000 car, you don't usually think, wow, that person is a genius. You think, wow, that car is cool, and then you imagine yourself in it. We buy things to impress others, but others aren't actually looking at us. They are using our possessions as a mirror for their own fantasies. You are essentially paying tens of thousands of dollars to be a walking advertisement for a brand, while your real wealth, the money that could be growing, is being drained. You have to understand the difference between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich is current income spent on expensive displays. Being wealthy is the money not spent. It's the investments nobody sees, the paid-off home, and the ability to walk away from any situation you don't like. Being rich is an act. Being wealthy is a choice. If you want to be wealthy, you have to stop optimizing for the appearance of success and start optimizing for the accumulation of assets. Real wealth is what you don't see. It's the car not purchased and the diamonds not bought. This leads us to lesson number 8. Your wealth is determined by your savings rate, not your income. We live in a society that celebrates the person who gets a 20% raise, but we ignore the person who cuts their expenses by 20%. Mathematically, they have the exact same impact on your net worth, but psychologically, increasing income feels like winning, while decreasing expenses feels like losing. Every dollar you don't spend is a dollar that can compound for 30 years. When you buy that overpriced luxury item, you aren't just spending the price on the tag, you are spending the thousands of dollars that money could have grown into by the time you retire. Now, let's talk about the game of the markets. Lesson number 9. Time in the market beats timing the market. Your brain is wired to feel in control. It wants to believe that with enough research and enough charts, you can outsmart the entire world. But the data is clear. Even the pros fail to beat simple index funds the vast majority of the time. The longer you stay invested, the more the noise of the daily news fades away. If you invest for one day, it's a coin flip. If you invest for 20 years, the odds of success are nearly 100%.
The trick isn't being smart. The trick is being patient.
Lesson number 10. Volatility is the price of admission, not a fine. When the market drops 20%, people panic because they think they are being punished. They think the system is broken. But it's not a bug, it's a feature. Think of market drops as the fee you pay for the privilege of long-term wealth creation. Just like you pay for a ticket to a movie or a membership at a gym, you pay the volatility fee to get the massive returns of the stock market. If you can't stomach the fee, you don't get to see the show. Which brings us to lesson number 11. Your situation is unique. Financial advice is often sold as a one-size-fits-all solution, but the strategy that works for a 25-year-old with no kids is a disaster for a 50-year-old with 3 kids and a mortgage. You have to design a plan that lets you sleep at night. If a perfect investment strategy keeps you awake with anxiety, it is a bad strategy for you. The goal isn't to have the most money on a spreadsheet. The goal is to have the most peace of mind in your actual life. And finally, lesson number 12. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. The investment industry wants you to believe that wealth requires complex strategies, expensive advisors, and constant monitoring. Why? Because they can't charge you fees for a simple strategy. Low-cost index funds and decades of patience will outperform almost every complex genius strategy out there.
Simplicity works because it's the only thing people can actually stick to when things get tough. These 12 lessons aren't just about building a bank account. They are about building a life. What is the point of accumulating millions if you spend every day stressed, anxious, and obsessed with numbers on a screen? The people who master these principles don't just end up with more money. They end up with more freedom. They sleep better. They make decisions based on their values rather than their fears. They understand that money is a tool to create the life they want, not the scoreboard that determines their value as a human being. Everything we've talked about today comes down to one thing: identity. You have to decide if you want to look rich or if you want to be wealthy. You have to decide if you want to follow the crowd or if you want to be free. The path to wealth is boring, it is quiet, and it is slow, but it is the only path that actually works. If this video rewired your brain today, then you are exactly where you need to be. We are building a community of people who are done with the get-rich-quick lies and are ready for the get-wealthy-for-sure truth. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notifications because we are just getting started. Go to the comments and tell me which of these 12 lessons hit you the hardest. Was it the enough threshold or the realization that your savings rate matters more than your raise? Let me know below.